Invented by Nigerian teacher Muhammad Ba and revolutionized farmers' markets in Darfur, Sudan. Before the Zeer pot was introduced to Darfur, some farmers lost up to half their crops at daily markets. Without the Zeer pot, their foods were subject to the dry heat of the desert. The Zeer pot is a refrigeration device that's amazing in its simplicity. It consists of two terracotta pots, some sand, and a wet cloth. The smaller pot sits inside a larger pot, and the space between the two pots is filled with damp sand. The moisture soaks through the pots, and airflow over and around the Zeer pot evaporates the moisture, thereby pulling more moisture from the sand. This causes an evaporative cooling effect as heat is removed from the outer surface of the Zeer pot. In Sudan, the first trials of the Zeer pot proved successful. Eggplants, for example, stayed fresh for 21 days instead of 2, and tomatoes and peppers lasted for 3 weeks or more. African spinach, which usually spoils after a day, remained edible after 5 days in the Zeer pot. In an off-grid situation, a Zeer pot could also be used to keep medication cool enough to protect its effectiveness. For my Zeer pot, I've chosen 2 unglazed pots. From my reading, I understand that it's perfectly acceptable to use a glazed pot for the inside pot. We want the lip of the inner pot to be the same height as the lip of the outer pot, so we're going to put some sand underneath that inner pot to raise it up. Having a layer of moisture under the inner pot will increase the evaporative cooling effect on the bottom of the Zeer pot. Well, alright, looks like we're just about full here. We may have to add a little bit more later after we wet down the sand. This looks pretty good for now though, so let's fire this baby up. To measure temperature inside and outside the pot, I'm going to use this indoor-outdoor thermometer set. Slowly add water to the sand. You're trying to saturate the sand, but you don't want it to be over full. If you put too much water in, the pot will float out of the sand, and you'll have to push it back down, and then use a dry rag to soak up the excess water. Okay, the next step in getting this thing going is to wet down a rag for the top of it. I trimmed my rag back so there wasn't much overhang. I didn't want to block air circulation around the clay pot. It should take a couple of hours for the water to soak through the outer clay pot, but it'll start cooling immediately. I'm going to use the smoke from an incense here to show you that there is a light breeze blowing past the pot. Okay, well, here we go. This is Florida, and we're starting this test with 47% humidity in the air. Well, let's take a look at our result 1 hour later. Well, look at that. The temp inside the pot is 6 degrees cooler than the temperature outside the pot. The pot held that 6 degrees until the breeze died down. When the breeze died, the pot could only maintain a 3.5 degree temperature difference. A while later, the relative humidity rose, and then the pot would only maintain a 1.5 degree difference. Alright, day 2 of testing. Still in the shade, but a lot heavier breeze today. Same sensor as yesterday, and in it goes. Okay, time to install the moist cloth. Humidity of the air is down today. It's at 49%. Look at that. We got a 10 degree temperature difference. That's doing alright. The secret to our success here is a good breeze and the relative humidity in the air dropped to 34%. For the rest of the afternoon, the breeze stayed up and the humidity stayed down. So the temperature of the pot fluctuated between 9 and 10 degrees below that of the temperature of the air. That's actually a very useful temperature drop when you don't have much for alternatives. You could cool down a drink or two, or you could store life-saving medications like insulin at a temperature that'll protect it from premature decay. My Zeer pot didn't hold its cold for very long after evaporative cooling effects slowed, but that's because it's a small Zeer pot. It has a small thermal mass. Something like this, though, is designed to hold on to its cold, and it's proven to do that in some of the hottest climates on the planet. Living in a wealthy country where electricity and access to healthy food are the norm, it's hard to imagine living without refrigeration. The recent natural disasters created by Hurricane Katrina and Rita here in America show that we shouldn't take our comfort for granted. It's important to remember that sometimes the simplest solutions to a problem will get the job done.